All right, we're kicking off this SportsMax Zone with a beautiful game. But it has not been a beautiful couple of days for current Ray and nephew Jamaica Premier League leaders Mount Pleasant, as they remain under investigation for the alleged transfer and use of ineligible players. In a follow-up from Thursday's edition of the SportsMax Zone, a meeting was held on Thursday night to resolve the issue. But to our knowledge, the matter has been taken up by CONCACAF as there is still no resolution. Joining us now via phone is Dwight Jeremiah. Dwight, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I am good, Maria. Thanks for having me. I'm on the road. I'm all the way in the grill, so yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful Negril. So enjoy, Dwight. But I'm happy that you could join us this afternoon because this is a topic that, has been on the lips of most Jamaicans, especially something that will affect the points table based on what sort of ruling comes out of this. So, Dwight, first of all, it's the first time we're having this conversation. So your initial thoughts when you saw this story break in the news?
I was surprised, but also the fact that so much information was given in terms of the protest by Cavalier and having all those informations at their disposal. I felt it's not always cut and dry. So I tried to get in touch with some persons from Mount Pleasant, but that early stage, they were still trying to digest that and looking at their responses or how they're going to go about it. But yeah, I was surprised because before now I knew of the Asians and what I learned of them was that they were brought in and it was seamless when they came in, and everything was done according to as it should have been done. So it was surprising to me.
Yeah, and the repercussions, Dwight, how are you feeling about that? Because it can go both ways, as we spoke about on the show yesterday. Nothing can happen. They would have dot their I's, cross their T's, or it can affect a lot of the teams.
It could affect a lot of teams, but I want to go beyond that it could affect the JFF competitions committee because the fact that these players were you look at the complaint or part of the protest about them being transferred beyond the transfer window. Well, that's possible with professional players depending on their status as of the 31st of January, where if they're free agents by whatever means, be it a termination of a contract with the previous club before the close of the transfer window, which then allows for a transfer to take place beyond the window. Now, if Cavalier were to be right that it went outside of the window, now all these documents have to be put to the JFF competitions committee, who then uploads these documents. So the fact that they were issued the clearance to participate, I think implications then, if Cavalier were right, would also be for the Jamaica Football Federation's competitions department.
Yeah, a lot, of course, on the line when it comes to this situation. One more thing from me before I pass you on to one of the guys. The time, it's Friday in the afternoon. We're getting ready for the weekend where there will be the last round of JPL matches. And I feel like, we didn't hear anything just yet, Dwight. I feel a bit uneasy about that. How do you feel?
Of course, and I suspect a lot of the other teams are uneasy about it as well. But I think the best way for them to go about it, the ones that, if it went in their favor, having a chance, they have to go out there and play as if that chance is going to come after if they don't get anything. But listening to the show yesterday and hearing Lance and Ricardo and two different spin, where Lance was saying for Cavalier to come out like this, then it simply means that they must have all the information and feel confident. But the fact that it has taken so long suggests it's not so black and white. And I believe if Cavalier were to be right, then I say, again, implications for the competitions committee as to how these things were allowed to go ahead, and documents would have to be submitted to them to be uploaded to the platform for these clearance to be given for the players. So like I said before, a transfer cannot occur outside of the prescribed transfer window, depending on the status of the players at the final day of that transfer window.
Yeah, important point that you're making there, Dwight, because I take what you're saying 100%, because if it is that these players played Mount Pleasant would have gotten clearance from the competitions committee to have them having IDs and certification to play. So if it is that they were certified to play, which it's hard for me to think that they were not, then the ball is actually in the JFF's court for how that was allowed to happen, if it is that it should not have happened.
Yeah, on the premise or on the point of the transfer occurring outside the window, as Cavalier is attesting. In terms of the playing for multiple clubs in this
in the same space.
At the same time, a registered formation, normally as I know it, is and foremost who would be sanctioned and can be banned for periods because they did that knowingly. So the players aren't free from that, from sanctions for doing so. And then now the club who used these players would also be sanctioned as well. As for Mount Pleasant, as Cavalier is stating in their letter, suggesting that they were party to it, I think that will take some proving as well, as Mount Pleasant could attest to not knowing so. And then after the fact that they played, they questioned that and realizing, okay, we were in the clear. It is the Asian team that would have to face these sanctions. So I think on that point, to say Mount Pleasant is party to it, maybe a stretch, but who knows? I think that's where I feel with it. And on the other point of using 7 or having 7 players, the way I know it is that it is taking the field, participating in the game, that these players then become ineligible, but being listed on a match day form does not lead directly to
a breach.
Them breaching.
Yeah.
Not breaching anything.
Yeah, quickly. Some audio issues there with you, Dwight, but I just want to say something here quickly, because we were saying on the show yesterday that I'm a little appalled that the ruling is taking so long to come. And it's hard for me not to feel that the competitions committee is struggling here. And it could be a situation where they have some tracks to cover and are trying desperately to do that. Because if the rules are clear and the transgressions are clear, then I'm not sure why an official ruling is taking so long to be presented to the public.
I agree with you, Lance, and that's why I started out saying, depending on which way it goes, and if it goes in the favor of Cavalier, as I said explicitly, then that implicates the competitions committee of the Jamaica Football Federation. So the fact is, the fact that it's taken so long, probably you're right in that maybe it's about damage control. How do we rule on this? If it is clear, as Cavalier is saying, without the discrepancies that will pop up for the competitions committee and maybe the credibility of such a committee, and if going further, maybe consequences with personnel involved in it. So that could be a part of why it's taking so long. I want to touch something, Lance. I heard Mariah said in her opening statement that things have been passed on to CONCACAF. I suspect it's not the entire case, but the part with the team or the players participating in the club championship, CONCACAF Club Championship, while being contracted from Mount Pleasant. But I wouldn't suspect the entire thing is passed on. Is it that Jamaica Football Federation is seeking guidance on every single thing?
Well, my understanding is that CONCACAF has taken an interest. I can't say specifically what aspects of the overall case, Dwight, that they have taken an interest in. But like you, I suspect it has to do with the players playing for Real Hope after they were supposed to be registered with Mount Pleasant. One of the arguments I've heard, Dwight, as it relates to whether Mount Pleasant would have been complicit in the players turning out for Real Hope at a time when they should have been registered to Mount Pleasant Football Academy, is that Mount Pleasant cannot claim ignorance, and that having signed the players, it became the responsibility of Mount Pleasant to ensure that they did not play for any other team. And if they did, it was the responsibility of Mount Pleasant to report that to CONCACAF. What do you make of that point of view?
Well, in terms of reporting it, having found out, because it's a sport that was not in a closed space and they would have known about it, that aspect of it, well, you could say yes. In terms of reporting it and not doing so, then yes. But in terms of preventing the players, if you sign the players and they're not with you in your space, it is after they would have represented the club that you would have possibly know about it. That is quite possible. So to say that they played and Mount Pleasant was party to it, that's the part that I'm saying you can't say that with all certainty. In terms of reporting, I think after it occurred, Mount Pleasant certainly would have been aware of that happening and would have been expected to report such case, despite it not directly impacting their participation or progression in a competition that these players participated in.
Yeah, I guess the suggestion there, Dwight, is that whether before, during, or after the fact, Mount Pleasant must have known at some point that these players turned out for real hope at a point when they should not have. Is that a fair statement for anyone to make, in your opinion?
I think after they played is fair enough, because if the players are not with them and they're elsewhere, maybe yes, it's their players probably want to know about. But players can be devious too. I mean, yes, you're talking about professional levels, but we've seen it. I've had to rule on a player that turned out for two clubs in a parish league in Trelawney recently, as I'm the gen sec of the parish. So and one club did not know about it until after it occurred. So I'm saying after it occurred, you can clearly say they had a responsibility to make it known, because it wasn't in a vacuum. They would have known about it before. I mean, they could argue that, look, it's right when we're looking at it, we see them on this field or in the match or whatever playing. And at that point, that's when we know they're playing. But after that, if they did nothing, then yes, I suspect that in that situation, then you could say Mount Pleasant would have been part of the cover-up then.
Well,
or the attempted cover-up.
I guess we'll see what comes out of that. But football is going to continue on Sunday, Dwight Jeremiah, with the final round of preliminary matches and, of course, all up for grabs, especially the sixth and final playoff spot and, of course, the determination of the relegated teams. As it is now, let us say things remain as they are. Who do you suspect will get that sixth and final spot? Is it Tivoli Gardens, who are in pole position and only need a win to ensure qualification? Could it be Waterhouse, who can still advance as things are? And who do you suspect will be relegated along with Vere United?
As it stands now, it's difficult to put my bet on Waterhouse because of how they have gone on this season. It's just totally unpredictable whether home or away. It's a case where Tivoli is there now. But you'd have to look at the fixtures to see who they're playing. But you just suspect Waterhouse. They really are not who's in confidence at the moment. And maybe if you're to bet on it, you'd say with those two in the picture, you'd want to think Tivoli will hold on to where they're at. However, I think if Racing feels like, look, we have a real chance here, that's a huge motivation for a team that felt they were out of it. And if they do what they need to do, it's possible that it could be Racing nonetheless. So I would want to say Tivoli with an outside chance more for Racing than even for Waterhouse.
Yeah, tough one for Tivoli Gardens. They will play Montego Bay United. Of course,
who are safe, who are pretty much safe for the second. Well, you put it. They want to secure their thing too. So yeah, that's a tough one too. That's a tough one.
Yeah, Waterhouse, Dunbeholden, Portmore United, Racing United. So a tough one for Racing United. And but
you feel Portmore looks like they're safe for being up in the six, the top six. So not saying that they're going to go easy, but maybe just with that, might help Racing a bit. But the other two games are tough. If you look at the fixture by itself, then you may feel Waterhouse has a better chance than.
Tivoli Gardens. All right, we're having some audio issues there with Dwight Jeremiah, but Lance and Mariah, very difficult to predict anything at the moment relating to the Jamaica Premier League because of the boardroom decision that we are awaiting. And the disappointing thing for me, and I think Mariah hinted at it several times in this conversation, is that the JFF Competitions Committee has said nothing on this matter. As
unavailable for comment.
As members of the media, we have been digging, we've been trying to find out, had the letter, the protest from Cavalier to the Competitions Committee not been leaked, we probably would not have known that this was happening. And since it's out in the public domain, I would think, I mean, I definitely think that the JFF Competitions Committee should have said something, even a one-liner, to say that, yes, we're working through this, an investigation is ongoing.
We don't want to comment right now.
Yes, there is no further comment that we can give right now, but they've just sat and said absolutely nothing over the last 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, and I think that always has repercussions. When you don't say something, you're always held accountable. People are going to say, sometimes it's better, Ricardo, to just come out to the forefront and admit that something is happening. We're working behind the scenes.
Well,
because
we know
then
something
it leaves,
is happening. It's
no,
a
but
fact. We have the letter.
That's what I'm saying. So it's easier to smooth over everything by just coming to the forefront as opposed to hiding behind everything, letting speculation happen. And with speculation comes a lot of chaos. He says, she says, everybody says, and everybody's in a panic. Remember, this is a competition that is highly respected, and I think those in authority and running this competition would want to ensure that it's seen as a respectable competition. And when you don't hear anything, you start to wonder.
Yeah. Okay, so we lost Dwight Jeremiah, who is in Negril. I was going to ask him to have a drink at the Rick's Cafe for me. And,
but you don't
drink,
that.
Lance.
You could drink a Coke, or if I have a drink, I didn't say it was alcoholic.
But you do
Lance,
know
but when you say have a
drink,
drink, it means alcohol. Come on.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does, Lance.
It could be a fruit punch.
No, Lance.
Could be.
Well, can
Nobody
you specify?
says have a drink if you're talking about water or fruit punch.
I do, because I'm not an alcohol person. So when I say it, that's what it means.
From
a little cottage in the grill, I wrote these lines to you. Oh, baby.
So, Lance, 3 weeks ago, you didn't want to sing the lady happy birthday, and now you're
No, Cottage in the Grill is a big
belting
tune. Tyrone Taylor.
So the birthday song you're going to sing for Fedrine, Fedrine's guest,
next
was
time.
not a big tune?
It was it a Friday?
Yes, it was a Friday.
It was a Friday?
It
I
was a
wasn't
Friday.
here.
Oh.
You know, if I didn't have the cold that day, I would have sang for her.
Well,
Yeah,
you should
what?
have.
You
should
see-
have.
No, it's just because I had a cold.
Guys.
That's why I didn't.
all this singing happening here, I'm going to go to a break. Y'all can sing in the break.
Yeah.
You drink some water, you sing. We'll be right back.